3 times.
Oh, that was just in my house.
All right, it looks like, are we streaming now?
Not quite.
Okay. I go.
Yes. All right.
Wonderful.
We may begin.
Great. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting of the Salem Public Art Commission to order for Wednesday, June 12th. Let's go around real quick and introduce ourselves. My name is Zach Cole. I'm a chair of the commission.
I'm Susan Apek. I'm the vice chair.
Chris Darcy, newly appointed commissioner from Ward 2.
I'm Kate Van Emerson. I'm the executive director of the Salem Public Library Foundation, and I'm a guest.
I'm Keith Wynn, and I am city's liaison to the SPAC.
And I'm Brian Hart, and also a new commissioner too.
Welcome, new commissioners, and thanks for joining us, Kate. We're going to move the agenda around a little bit today. Is there any public comment today, Keith? I don't see anybody.
There was no public comment received.
Okay. Let's approve the consent agenda real quick for the agenda for today and the minutes for the May 8th meeting.
Approval of the consent agenda.
What's that?
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Approved. Before we go into discussion items in respect of Kate's time, let's bring new business up a notch, which is the library art collection topic. Thanks for joining us today, Kate. I think you could maybe send a presentation around. I don't know if Keith, is that something that we have handy?
Absolutely. And I will share screen now and hand the controls over to Kate.
And orient us a little bit, Kate, just remind us what we're this is a great presentation of outlining the library's relationship with public art, and I think in here is an ask for SPAC as well. Is that right?
Not in the presentation, but yes, that's why I'm here.
Great. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm Kate. I'm from the Salem Public Library Foundation, and I put together this presentation just to help SPAC understand the different ways that the library participates in public art in the city, and I'm not sure if all the members are aware of the different aspects of it. And then the request will be to consider the city absorbing the Salem Public Library Foundation's collection into the Salem Public Art Collection. For a little bit of background, we have 3 ways at the library that we support public art. And the first one of which is the Library Art Hall. It was part of the planning for the seismic retrofit of the library to include gallery space that would allow different exhibits to be shown in the library and to have a more active art component than just the singular collection of both that's owned by both the city and the foundation. And so that has, over the last 2 years, that has been a resounding success, I would say. We have a lot of partnerships associated with that. The library provides the space. The SPAC supports the internal and background components of those exhibits. And the Oregon Artist Series Foundation hangs the shows and does all the labels and the promotion for them. And they do that in coordination with the displays and exhibits that they have at the Salem Convention Center. And so the idea of having the same artist in 2 places and the crossover has been really appealing to us. We don't really have a way to measure how much people see it in one place and then go to the other place to view the other part of it. But we feel like there's a different crowd that goes to the convention center and then comes to the library, and that crossover there could be good, but really good. And then I, as the foundation director, kind of coordinate the whole art hall. We've had 6 different exhibits in there in the last 2 years, and each February, the Salem Reads art exhibit is in the library art hall for the month of February. So that's a really nice collaborative space with lots of different partners. And then the library display collection, currently that is part of the, it's owned by 2 entities. One is the foundation, the other is the city of Salem. And we spent a lot of time figuring out who owned what. Some of the art goes back way into the 70s when the library was built. So we spent a lot of time determining ownership. And then when we came back in after the retrofit, those 2 collections were hung in the library as if they were one collection. So it didn't matter who owned them. It mattered where where they made the most sense in the curated space. So that we've got great rave reviews about how the art looks in the library. And that was SPAC was very involved in that, as was Eileen Cotter-Howell and Paula Booth. You helped us, some members of the foundation, our committee helped with that. So that was a really big project. It all had to be stored, shipped to Portland, brought back, and then rehung. So that's a very significant display of public art in the library. The foundation pieces were purchased to stay in the library as a way of having fine art that was free and easily accessible to the public. And that was the original reason that the foundation started collecting art in 1981 when the foundation was formed. And so then the last thing is the library staff manages the community art gallery, which allows local artists with enough volume to hang on a wall near the DVD section of the library, and they're allowed to display their art for up to a month after they apply for that. So the library art hall is kind of overseen by the foundation. The library collection is foundation and SPAC, and my hope is that soon it will become managed by SPAC. And then the library is managed by the community art gallery is managed by the library staff. So that's kind of an overview. I think that this presentation was sent to you, but it outlines who manages it and the partners associated with it.
Okay, so the main part is also to move this so that the public can see it.
Oh, I see.
There you go.
Okay, good.
Oh, and right here, one more thing. Just kind of keep monitoring.
So I think I've highlighted most of these, the partners, then the library display collection, and a lot of work was done on the labels to make them really museum quality and have a lot of historic reference. And that was an incredible amount of work also, so that's been completed. And for the foundation, these were all upgrades and a lot of professionalism that was brought to the foundation art collection and got it up to speed and at the same level as the SPAC art collection. So that was a considerable amount of work, and it was an important thing that needed to be done. And so I also kind of outlined some of the community benefits of public art. And if this commission would have anything to add to that, I would certainly welcome it to add it to this list. But just that it creates a beautiful space and it complements the architecture of the seismic retrofit and the original brutalist architecture. And that it introduces all ages and walks of life to fine art in a place that they may not be able to access it otherwise. It celebrates local and regional artists, and art in a public space spurs people to see art as appreciated and valued and displayed as an important part of a community. And then it connects the local artist community through collaboration. And so that's kind of the picture that and the service that the library provides to the community, both the Salem community, but also the Salem art community. So basically, my request is to, or proposal is that this body consider accepting the Salem Public Library Foundation art collection, and that it be given to the city of Salem, that it be under the care of SPAC, and that the items remain in the library. The collection is in very good repair. We are in the process of having it appraised right now, and I believe I'll have that appraisal back sometime next week. Shelley Hall from Bend is doing the appraisal, and she was here last Monday looking at all of the work. There is one piece that it's a bronze sculpture by Robert Hess that was broken by a child. And I have an appointment with one of Robert Hess's students who is also working on a piece for the city. Lee, I'm not sure how to say it. Eminem. Yeah. So he is going to be picking up Falling Books early next week and repairing it. The foundation will fund that repair. The foundation is funding the appraisal.
How many pieces roughly are in that foundation collection? I can't.
44.
Okay.
Yes.
How many are paintings
Um,
versus sculptures?
Probably most.
I would say at least 41 or 42 are paintings. There are also, all of them are on display in the library except Falling Books, which needs to be repaired. There are 2 foundation pieces which are in the mayor's office, and those are on loan to the mayor. But when the City Hall gets taken apart in March of 2025, it would be appreciated if those pieces of artwork could come back to the library. And Eileen and Paula would probably be willing to find places for those to exist. And so other kind of benefits of this are that it really, if you were to accept this gift of foundation art, it would reduce the duplication of effort in terms of caring for the art. A lot of the work has been done, the labels, the cataloging, the condition, the appraisal, all of that stuff is done, so it's not going to be a heavy load for SPAC. And my understanding is that because the city has its own art collection already insured, that adding these other pieces to that would be a nominal fee to a nominal cost to the city in terms of insurance. And for the foundation, it's also advantageous because we've had an art collection, but the foundation has never chosen to spend the money to have it appraised or insured. And that, as when I got here, that felt kind of uncomfortable and like we weren't properly taking care of the art. So the foundation can appraise it, and if we move it to the ownership of SPAC, then it can be insured, and that would be for the first time in the history of this collection. So we consider it, our foundation board considers it an act of generosity and also finding a safe home for this art that has been collected over the last 40 years and putting it in the safe, trusted, professional hands of SPAC feels like a good place for us. And so our board is completely supportive of the transfer. And then I also wanted to express the appreciation that I have for this body in all the work that I've done with SPAC, especially around the retrofit, is that these are seasoned professionals in the art world and you know what you're doing. And I think your trustworthiness is really top notch. And if that's another part that feels good about, like, this art will be safe in your hands. So I welcome any questions.
Thank you very much, Susan. I see you have a question.
Yeah, thanks. This is a great presentation. I'm sorry, I missed your name.
Oh, it's Kate Van Amerson.
Kate, thanks so much. I just have a question as a relative newcomer to Salem and to, I mean, actually, I've been here 7 years, but what is the Salem Public Library Foundation? And you said you were formed in 1981. And I mean, in a nutshell, I probably should know this, but I really don't know anything about your foundation. I know I've learned what you've done with the art collection. It's amazing and wonderful. And I totally am supportive of what you want to do in terms of having it under the auspices of the city and SPAC. But can you just say a few words about what the
Sure.
foundation is and what it does and how it was formed?
Yes. So it was formed in 1981. Wes Sullivan was a mayor back then, and there was a group of people that wanted to have extra enhancement support for the library. And so this library building was built in 1972. And so the foundation was formed in 1981. And their goal was to raise $1 million in 10 years to start an endowment. And so that group of people worked really hard on fundraising. They did meet their goal, but they had some tussles over the years of people who wanted to squirrel everything away in the endowment, and then other people who wanted to give money to the library right then for enhancement projects. So they reached their goal, and then we continue fundraising to this day. So we're a 501c3 nonprofit. We send mailers and have a donor list of about 400 people. We have the endowment that funds a lot of our operations, but also grants fund our operations, as do the annual fundraising. I'm the sole employee, and we as an organization fund enhancements to the library, and those are at the direction of the city librarian. So each year when we do a budget process, the city librarian tells us what she needs, and then we do our best to fund all of those enhancements. And we're very careful about the word enhancement, because we also expect the city to fully fund a vibrant library. And so we do not fund operations. The library has about a $5 million budget. And so we don't have the resources to fund any sorts of operations, but we do the enhancements. And other big projects that we've done, we usually spend between $200,000 and $300,000 a year between restricted funds and unrestricted funds for library enhancements. And then during the retrofit, there were aesthetic improvements that could be done to the building that were not covered by the bond. And the architects came to the foundation and said, these are the extra aesthetic projects that we could do. Well, could you fund those? And we were able to fund 4 out of 5 of them. And then we also partnered on the 5th, which was to redo the entrance. And so that was a total of $620,000 that was spent from the foundation on the seismic retrofit. So we do special projects like that also.
Great, thank you.
Well, this is a great, I particularly like that first slide that kind of shows how much the public library is a space for the arts. Um, and I assume those other two programs are going to continue with their different supporters. I think it makes a lot of sense. I heard you say a few times the goal is to keep the collection, the current pieces in place so that we are, honoring the the history of their donation, the intent of their donation, and the use of the public library as a kind of de facto gallery. So it makes a lot of sense to me. I'm in support of it. How do other folks feel? I heard Susan, heard you say you felt supportive of that. Um, Brian,
Absolutely.
Chris, how are you? What are your thoughts?
I think it makes sense. I mean, this has come up before as a possibility. And I served on SPAC when the appraisal of the overall collection was done. There was a carve out for the foundation owned objects. But I also served on SPAC when a team of people from both the library, in fact, either foundation or the library board and members of SPAC did all the fact checking and the label writing, and that project received an award from the city. So this seems like a natural progression. I also think the fact that the entire collection was looked at in terms of deferred maintenance and repairs were made if necessary. This is a gift that comes without a repair bill. That's very generous, and it seems like a good idea to me. The city is self-insured, so these pieces come with the usual, if it's damaged, then SPAC foots bill. There's no policy that covers any of the city's stuff, as far as I know. Anyway, I'm all for it.
Krista, do you have any?
Yeah, so sorry I was a little bit late, but I did catch the majority of that. So absolutely, I think this makes so much sense. Again, the content is all there for us. The conditions are there. I think for all the work that would be in the collection, if this was included, that work now has the most information available. So there wouldn't really be as much that we would have to worry about on our part. And it's already there, it's already installed, it's cared for, people know about it there. So yeah, all for it.
Brian, do you have any thoughts?
I'm just also in support of it. Yeah, I don't have much new things to say that people haven't already said. I think it makes sense to kind of unify the collection.
There was
So-
one thing that we had discussed, and it was about security. Whether there's any kind of security for people just walking out the door with a nice, beautiful Louis Bunce or whatever, and whether that is something you've considered or have some ideas about.
Yes, it was considered when it was reinstalled. And all on the first floor, all of the artwork has locking. I don't know how you describe them.
Security hardware.
Yeah, so it's like what they have in hotels and things like that. So yes, everything is
Okay.
tied down. And we haven't had any, I've been at the library for 8 years. We've only had one incident where there was a tussle downstairs and someone bumped a piece and it came off the wall, but it was not damaged. So there's generally great respect for it, and we've never had theft problems. And a lot of the pieces are large, and so it would be noticeable for someone to try to, if they could get it off the wall, to get it out of the building. So yes, the security has been considered.
Great.
So at this point, Keith, do you think, are we making a motion to accept this? Is that?
No, I spoke with Mark Weinstein from legal. He said that there is a session process where we bring it into our collection, which would involve a public hearing and SPAC going through all of the different pieces one by one.
Okay.
In addition, he says that we need to be pay particular attention that none of the current artwork has any restrictions on it. And the other part is that although we want to keep it in the library, there cannot be anything in the language saying you have to keep it here. SPAC is the only body that can cite pieces. And so if they decide they want to cite it somewhere else, a piece somewhere else, they have that, they have that authority. And then the way we can do this, after the public hearing, is putting together a donation agreement, saying this donation agreement is based upon SPAC approving it into the collection. But he recommends the latter, which is have SPAC say that we adopt this into our collection contingent upon the donation agreement between Library Foundation and city. So we could do that right now and then go through the public process of citing a notice for the hearing, then have the hearing, so even the public can see it and we have it on record, and then we sign the documentation.
I have a question. Because I don't recall a public hearing being held for the city's acquisition of other artwork. And I know that when the Betty LeDuc triptych, which is on the lower level of the library, there was a donation. I don't believe there was a public hearing for that. I could be wrong.
Okay.
I typically would remember a public hearing because there are so many rules. Anyway, it just seems a little unusual to me. I'm just saying it for the record.
Okay.
Because of a motion on 44 works of art, some of which are not super, they're all valuable, but it's not like it's $1 million donation.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will
Just a comment.
recheck the session guidelines and see what the process is. But essentially SPAC would, I think at this point we can say, yes, we accept it into the collection. But Mark did say we would need to review each of them.
Okay.
Before it goes.
And the way the appraisal is set up is that it has a photo of all of the items and then it has all the details associated with it. So that could potentially turn itself into a presentation that would allow public viewing.
And he has two, Mark currently has two donation forms. And so depending on how we present the information, he'll choose one and make that determination.
Okay.
But yes, I think we can do a motion now to,
So if I heard you correctly, we can do a motion to accept the donation from the Salem Public Library Foundation contingent upon the public hearing and the accession process.
the accession process, which may include a public hearing.
Which makes the public hearing. Okay. Great. I will make that motion. Do I need to say it again?
No, so
I'll
moved.
get into the details.
Okay.
The transcript.
Great. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Great. Well, thank you very much, everybody, and Kate for that presentation and for the gift. It's very generous. I'm glad that this partnership has been productive in the past, and I expect and hope that the city will be a good steward of this work moving forward. So
Before
Great
Kate
collection.
excuses herself, just one idea, since you're going to be transitioning to a new life without the library. When the 50th anniversary of the building of the Civic Center occurred, there was an art tour of the Civic Center and a tour of the art collection of the library. It was really well done. Paula Booth, who was part of the reinstallation committee, led the tour. And I do think that people are curious about the collection, and maybe SPAC and the library could collaborate on once a quarter a walkthrough of the art collection of the library. You know, I'm sure we could get Paula or anyone else to do it. And I think it would just be an added, valued program at the library as we continue to look at ways to help people understand how these works of art on the wall actually got there and why they might be important and why one might be next to another one. I learned a lot just being on the tour myself. It was great. So just an idea.
And I can plant that seed.
Great.
And there are, you know, books that have been written about the artists who are hanging on the walls there that could be incorporated into some kind of a reading program too. You know, maybe we could work together on that.
And Kate did share with me the name of Sonia Somerville, who is a librarian, who can assist with communications regarding all of these art activities at the library. So that was great to get today.
Great.
Great. Good ideas. Well, thank you again. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you like, but you're also.
I appreciate you putting me up front. That was very kind. And it's nice to see everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
I'll let
Kate.
myself know, may I?
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
Great.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so now moving back to our agenda discussion items. The drummer and rooster, I understand, do we need to come up with a permanent siting decision in this meeting?
Well, because I think this is a good segue. Well, Kate mentioned that Lee is gonna come up to pick up a piece. He was wanting it out of his studio. I asked around, and the only people that can accommodate for that piece right now would be Center 50 Plus through the end of October. So that'll give us some time. Here are the places. It would be placed on the second floor of the, I probably should share screen, one second. Are you seeing my screen? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Now it looks like it's starting.
it's coming up.
Yep.
Okay.
So this is the space that they can accommodate the piece. I asked the library, the librarian, Bridget, and she said they're very hesitant about putting it inside because of limited space and because they do move around furniture and items as well for different activities. They're really worried about kids, you know, breaking it or climbing all over it. She was open to siting it outside in the exterior, perhaps somewhere near the deer statues. But they would have to talk amongst themselves. And so the person that was really willing and able to accommodate would be Marilyn Derby at Center 50 Plus. And that's where you see these. And so it's really up to SPAC. I really want to take it from Lee because the fiscal year is going to end at the end of the month, and we'd like to pay for the services he provided to us. So for those reasons, I say let's arrange with Maryland Derby, have it cited here, and then continue talks in somewhere else to place. The other option is putting it in storage downstairs in the Civic Center, but within a year, they're gonna start the retrofitting of the Civic Center, so that won't be an appropriate long-term solution.
Did you talk to the convention center about putting it back there temporarily?
I think the commission was hesitant about returning it there, because it was damaged there. And when they had it stored, it was in their furnace room essentially. So.
That's good for me to know.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
Is
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead, Susan.
So there's nowhere in the Civic Center that wouldn't be subject to the retrofitting? I mean, it's such a huge place. You would think that there's somewhere there for it.
Well, they're relocating all employees, and so that whole thing is gonna be a construction site.
Wow. Wow, I didn't realize it was the whole thing.
Yeah, the
Huh.
whole court system, everything is gonna be relocated this way.
So that space that we're looking at right now, is that where they're thinking of putting it and would it fit in there?
That's what, I haven't been able to go to that site to see it.
Yeah.
But it is on the second floor, it's not very trafficked. But it is a place to put it.
Keith, I remember when we were initially kind of brainstorming options, there was some discussion of wanting to essentially find a permanent home for it just because we weren't sure with the base if installing it and then reinstalling it would be cumbersome. So did you say that this could only be here through October if it went to Center for 50 Plus?
Exactly, it'll only be temporary through October.
Okay.
Hmm.
So maybe that's something to consider, but if we don't have another option.
I mean, I hear you, Keith. I think we have to get it back from Lee. And I think we, if I can summarize our past conversations, I think we have an idea that it might go somewhere back in the Civic Center or in the courtyard on a permanent base, but none of those locations are going to be really accessible until that work's completed. So I hear you though, Chris. Moving it around a bunch is not ideal either.
Yeah.
But maybe this is the necessary interim step while we try to figure it out, and we're not shoving it in a boiler room somewhere.
Absolutely. Well, and it just went under, conservation. So the best thing to do is to bring it out again and give it a new life. So
Yeah.
And there's no room in the library? Sorry. No room in the library for it?
They don't want it, is what Keith said. They don't want it inside.
Oh.
Yeah,
And
they want it inside.
they're willing to consider that. So.
I think the sculpture that Kate was talking about was damaged by children climbing over it. That needs to repair.
Hmm.
I wonder if the library would consider one of the window alcoves on the commercial street side of the building where there's occasional seating. It starts at the southwest corner of the building where the periodicals are and then extends back towards the Peace Plaza, and there are, I don't know, you think there are 5 of those alcoves? They're pretty good size. I often would go in and read art magazines and sit in one of those alcoves. And it's not a kid-heavy area of the library itself. This just seems like it's a 5-month solution and then we're back to the same issue.
Absolutely. I like Chris's idea about the convention center again, if we can have a dedicated space, but I just don't want them to fall over again.
Yeah, well, I think there was some structural weakness. My issue with the convention center is that it is a space that's used for a lot of different events. Much of what is in there moves because there can be a trade show, there can be a wedding, there can be, live animals. And, and they do not have professional art movers on their team. Those are all realities of the conventions.
I think those are the same reasons why we didn't want to put it back there. So
Yeah.
I
wonder if we could approach the library again to see if maybe they could find,
and I haven't,
especially since we're having our collection, the collection is going to be part of the public art collection there.
We just have to be aware that it's our responsibility to take it back from Lee and close out that contract though.
Yeah.
So we can have this discussion as much as we want, but I think we still have to solve that problem for him and for the city's contract. Like, I don't think it's fair to just boot this down to the next meeting and leave Lee hanging. Like, so I don't know.
So what are you saying, that we should put it at Center 50 Plus?
I think temporarily we probably have to, and acknowledge that this is not probably the long-term solution for it, and that we want to put it. I think we all want to put it somewhere else permanently, but can't.
And I believe that if we put it to Center 50 Plus and get the word out there, that's saying, hey, we're looking for a place to put it. People can see the size, people can see the reaction of the public, and then maybe they'll be more inclined to have it part of their, their space. But what I was hoping at this meeting is that we get a decision to move it to Center 50 Plus and then keep and continue talks with those other locations for a permanent solution. But the ultimate vision will be having it secure with the renovation of the Civic Center, somewhere within the Civic Center or the Peace Plaza space that they're also gonna renovate at that time.
So maybe we should focus on the library as our second step of our temporary solutions for this piece. That it start at Center 50 plus, we keep it on the agenda so that we speak with the library about potentially putting it outside or in one of these alcoves. And then it's going to be some time before that work is completed at the convention center or the Peace Plaza, though, right? Like a couple of years.
Civic Center
yeah.
and Peace Plaza, yes.
Yeah. So it's going to have, maybe it has a 6-month stay at Center 50 plus, and then maybe it has a 2-year stay at the library, and then it maybe moves to a permanent home. So it's going to take us a while to get it all the way to a permanent location.
We also, Brian and I have a colleague on our neighborhood association board, who I think is maybe the board chair of the Center 50 plus board. Ron is always asking for more public art. So there may be an advocate within the board leadership of that center who could be helpful. And if you're gonna prepare a presentation for the neighborhood association, maybe one could be given at Center 50 plus. You know,
That's where the next one is gonna be. Neighborhood Association, I believe, is gonna be at Center 50 plus.
oh, the meeting itself?
Yes.
Oh,
The one on the
see,
20, the one on the 27th?
Yes, let
This one?
me check.
Oh, it's good to know.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have it saved
Okay.
in my, one second, let me see.
Okay, great.
Party chairs meeting,
So sorry,
Yeah.
Chris, what are you suggesting that we advocate that it stay at Center 50 plus? I guess I'm not clear.
Because I think that the location, it's inside, it seems safe. I've never been up on the second floor of that building, but what's today, the 12th?
well,
If the city would like to close out the contract, pay Lee and retake possession of the piece, we need to make a decision quickly. The space at Center 50 plus is available, let's just get it there, and the rest of it can unfold as, other options open up.
and if we get it installed before June 27th, then all the neighborhood association chairs will be able to view it as well.
That's a good goal, I think.
Perfect. I think we're
Okay.
in radical agreement.
So
Perfect.
moved, so moved.
Okay, I think that was an
Let's do
action
it.
item, so let's make sure we got that official. Yeah, approved public art, no, it wasn't.
It's not on the action item list, but
But we can
Yes,
make a
let's
motion.
vote.
we can move it there though.
So is there a motion on the floor to approve the paying?
I
Lee and-
said so moved. I don't know if that's good enough. But I'll make a motion that we have Lee Eminem be paid. I don't know if he's been paid yet, and that he move the piece. Is he responsible for moving the piece?
Yes, he volunteered to bring the pieces up
Uh,
and to take a look
okay.
at the black discs, but we're not ready for him to do the black
Okay.
discs.
Okay. I wonder though if we should have some input on exactly where it's going to go at Center 50 plus.
I feel like isn't that what you just showed us, Keith? That slide is where
Yeah, those are the only options that were sent to me today.
Yeah, I couldn't tell where the sculpture would go though from that. I mean, in the middle of the room, or would it fit in that alcove? I mean, should we be there? Maybe one of us be there when they do
Absolutely, I
it,
think that
so we
that would be a
could.
great idea to work with Marilyn, the director
Yeah.
of Center 50 plus,
Okay.
and see
Okay.
where it is site then.
Okay.
So
So,
go ahead.
So I interrupted my motion with a question. And that it be cited at Center 50 plus in the interim until we can have find a permanent place for it.
second. All in favor?
Hi.
Wonderful.
I'm happy to be there too. Based on those slides, it seems like it might make more sense for it to go in that little balcony alcove, since it's a set aside and be able to see it from down below, and it wouldn't be in the middle of the hallway or displacing a bench or whatever. If it'll
If
fit.
it fits, yeah, that's
If
great.
you look across the way, you can see kind of how it's spaced out.
Yeah,
Well, Susan and I are gonna be there on the 27th. I don't know when these
Mhm.
come, but we could,
So following this meeting, I'll email Lee,
Okay.
and CC Kate Van Elmerson and see if he can coordinate a drop off and a pickup. Within, before the 27th.
Okay.
Then he can bill us, we can pay it off and close that contract. And work on the next one, which is on their agenda as well.
Great.
Great.
Thank you, everybody.
it's good
Okay.
to have that done. Can I just ask, has the convention center been updated about the fact that this piece is not coming back to the convention center?
No, because we didn't make a determination,
Okay,
but I can let them know.
I think it would be good to just
Okay.
close the loop.
Sounds good. Who in the
Um,
convention center would I talk with?
I would talk with Chrissy Birch.
Yeah, she's office downstairs.
Yeah, direct, she's the manager.
Okay, perfect.
Next discussion item is reviewing the draft strategic plan, which I understand everyone had a little bit of a hard time accessing.
Yes, I did receive comment from Chris. And then I did get your documents, but I haven't had a chance to incorporate it. So what I have here is essentially on computer.
I guess what I was seeing was were Chris's comments, the bold underlined.
Yes.
Yeah. But my draft is responding to Chris's draft. So if you could open mine, I guess, if you wanted to, and I tried to insert some information in there. And then I have a comment to it.
And I apologize for the issue. I'm not sure quite why it's not working for.
Microsoft SharePoint, it sort of links to the people's underlying Microsoft accounts. Like I think maybe Brian had the same issue. My underlying SharePoint account is not that email. And so it wants to kick me out of my network and I have to log into a separate, it just doesn't work really. So
Well, on one of them though, I could get in and it appeared differently in the email. It was that you had sent an invitation to view something, and then I clicked on that and could go immediately to it. But when it was sort of embedded in the email with those other two documents, and I had to go in and log in to Microsoft, that's when it didn't work. So I don't really know the ins and outs of it, but it worked on one and not the other.
Said my work one and work to me, only for me.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Just a comment. So I was here a couple of meetings ago and when there was some conversation about the strategic plan. And I read the draft that was circulated and I offered the comments that I did just because I did think the plan I did not see a vision for what this work was trying to achieve. And then I also felt that in order for there to be strategies, there had to be some sort of a situation that the work was trying to solve, advance, connect with.
like an objective.
Yeah, and so I offer these in the spirit of if you take anything to the city, you probably want to get it cooked partway before you show it to anybody in the legal office. And that's all I'll have to say. I think that there is real opportunity for this body to put together a robust kind of position on why this work is important. Because I do think that it's largely unknown to the general public. Things are starting to change, but there is a lot of negativity around a lot of things in this town, and I choose to take the high road. Like, let's make our city better, let's do X, Y, and Z, the arts should be part of it. And that's the spirit in which I offer these. I I did not get into editing. I just thought, all right, make these big points, see if they resonate with anybody, and, you know, the conversation can go on.
Great. Yeah, if you open that doc that I sent back, Keith, that I can, so yeah, I can see your email, but I can't see that document.
Oh.
And then if you view simple markup, you'll see under review, if you, yep, if you go to review, yeah, and then go to from instead of all markup, show simple markup. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, Chris, your point was well taken. This was in part built on a bunch of work that there's a PowerPoint presentation that outlined a strategic vision and goals, and this plan was sitting next to that in our original development. So I pulled some of that over in here for the vision part of it. I hear you. I think having sat through innumerable planning sessions, I've personally walked through a bunch of semantic arguments over what's a goal and what's a strategy, and I don't really care that much. I agree with you. I think we could look at the strategic priorities and we could rename them as goal statements, and then put list out the tasks and strategies. Like that part, I really don't. If you think that that reformatting it in that way would be better, the things you listed out are very similar to the strategic priorities in a slightly different order, I guess. So
Yes, I agree. There's a lot of great content in the draft.
yeah,
I agree with that.
so I think if you think from a format standpoint, it would be better to have a vision statement. So I sort of included this. This is the stuff we all talked about quite a while ago as we were preparing for the presentation to council. And I think this formed the intellectual underpinning of the draft we have right now, which is that this vision of accessible public art, where accessibility had these kind of key elements. And then if it's better to sort of distill a few high level goals out of the work we've done, you sort of did some of it already, Chris, I think. I might not number them because I might just list them because the the organization of the strategic draft kind of commingles. Like you've put things in different order than we had them in. So I don't mind if we want to go back and spend some more time working on this. I guess the input I'm taking away is that, in your opinion, it isn't ready to move forward.
That is my opinion.
Yeah.
I just think it could be,
I'm not clear the city needs
you
to.
could do a good copy edit of everything and get it to be less task oriented and more public benefit in terms of its positioning. Be more about, okay, what does this mean for Salem?
But
Like
is this?
people appreciate
I think
and value the collection, or it's acknowledged that public art, it actually does contribute to the livability of our neighborhoods.
I think we were trying to develop a work plan for ourselves, not
Yeah.
necessarily a statement that we're asking the city to bless. Because I don't know, at least when we looked back at the history of strategic plans, like I don't know that legal. Are we asking legal to do something
No,
with this? Yeah. So I'm just not.
there's no timeline on this, and I don't feel comfortable about moving anything forward if there were technical difficulties on my end communicating a draft to you all. So the goal was to present this to Scott Archer, because he's our new I guess director for community development or
Yeah.
community services. And so it's just kind of moving us along. But I don't see why we can't do both. You know, combine it with a vision, public vision, and then have the work plan. Or
Yeah, I agree. I don't mind adding a clear articulation of goals at the top to give talking points, I guess, maybe, Chris, for the what's the benefit? But I don't want to lose the task part of it, because that's where we're trying to actually do some work, and we've assigned specific tasks to specific people. So it's possible. I guess I don't. What's your proposal?
What's my proposal?
Yeah.
I would have I would have kind of a dual thing where there is outward facing explanation of what the kind of goals and aspirations are of the Public Art Commission. And then I would have a companion piece with essentially the work plan that looks at, let's say, the communications, the strategic partnerships and relationships. I mean, for me, trying to figure out what Travel Salem, which is publicly funded, can actually do for us, the Arts Commission and the arts community, to better promote our assets to visitors. I don't know if you saw the short piece that just ran on the Travel Oregon and Travel Salem website. Like, Salem is abuzz with the arts, and then like 5 organizations were mentioned. That doesn't seem, as an arts advocate, that doesn't seem like a good explanation to me. So, I mean, I think that we could have a more robust, in addition to the solid social media work, a communication strategy that links us to other things that people are paying attention to. Like strategic, like planning. The planning people, they're constantly bringing people together to hear about X, Y, and Z, or livability, or neighborhood, building community. I'm pretty enthusiastic about that stuff, so I don't need to tell me.
So if we scroll down a little bit into what the work we had done previously, so go up a little bit. So we have these I think are the goals as we had articulated them, that we named them strategic priorities, which sound like what you're talking about. We're going to do outreach and education. We're going to develop partnerships with other institutions, city departments, local arts organizations. I guess I'm not clear that we're having a difference of opinion, or not. I mean, I don't think we specifically wrote in Travel Salem in there, but we certainly could.
I would like to see something, and I'm only one member, that looks at what is so if we are, let's just say, aiming to diversify and organize public art creation channels, etc., what does that mean for the public on the ground? So are we really trying to animate our communities using public art so that they are livelier, safer, and more interesting places to live in and visit? That to me is the end result of, the fact that we support utility wraps or art in parks or street painting. It's the end goal is to make our city better for the people who live here and who visit. That's why there's a lot. This is all one big, kind of stew pot. I do think there's a lot of detail here that is more of a work plan as opposed to a strategic document that would be used externally. That's my opinion.
Would it be
Well,
helpful?
maybe we need to label it differently, Chris, then, because I think this came out of a need to get stuff done.
Right.
We all understand, and we sort of, maybe we assumed that the powers that be that would see this would understand, the creative economy and, all of the reports from from Americans for the Arts, and that they've seen all these things and they understand the benefit of art and culture to the city of Salem and all these benefits. I mean, we can certainly outline them, but I think this was like, how do we do this? How do we move things forward? How do we actually reach out to the community? How do we, enhance the public art collection? How do we, what's the nitty gritty of actually getting stuff done? And that was that's the way I felt about it. It wasn't really a kind of a vision plan of why we need this, which, certainly there could be a cover page or something if that could be, but this is like, A, B, C, this is what we plan to do. These are our sort of like goals of how to achieve certain things.
So maybe it is a work plan.
I think-
I was suggesting perhaps taking a look at maybe other municipalities or entities' plans, like master plan of Eugene, see if they have components of a strategic plan versus, and, work plan and combine in one document. Because I'm just thinking about what does a document look like? Because we could put the strategic goals or these goals at the beginning of each of these sections, saying these are the work plan items that points to these specific goals. Because it is kind of lacking up here as to why.
Yeah, I, that's my hesitation. I agree with you, Susan. I feel like we were responding to a feeling like we were having meetings and having a lot of conversation, but we weren't doing anything. And this was how do we as a group of people organize our time so that we're making change? Which is so I don't want to lose that, I guess. If in addition, we need to develop an outwardly facing communication plan type high level strategic vision document, I'm not, who are we trying to, that feels like a persuasive piece aimed at convincing somebody to do something. I'm not clear who the somebody is or what the convincing is. Sort of echoing Susan's, I'm reluctant to go back to the drawing board and not, I guess in some ways, like, it doesn't matter. Like we should do this work anyway. So maybe we just move forward with the work plan. And if we want to recirculate through coming up with a different strategic document to socialize with Scott, then that's fine. Like I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree. I think we put a lot of work into making this, and maybe it's not a traditional strategic plan. If that is something that we could still call it a strategic plan, if we do kind of come up with a vision and objective at the very top, and like Keith, you mentioned, kind of adding those goals into each priority so that it just has, a little bit of information about those. But yeah, I mean, even going through this and getting this document together has taken us a really long time. So I also don't want to keep prolonging it to the point where we can't get this approved and we're all just every time looking at this document over and over again. So I think if there's a way that we can, absolutely, Chris, like I agree, I think, and it's not something I even thought of. So I absolutely agree, like having a vision statement at the top or some sort of like, having that of like, this is why we are doing what we're doing. At the same time, this is what we want to do. And that, this is how we're going to get it done, and holding ourselves accountable. Cause I think that's what this is also really about. This isn't how the community is going to help us get all these things done. This is like what we all need to do to make an impact in the community and to share this art collection with everybody. So if there is like a nice way for us to integrate those more kind of grand scale ideas and visions, I think it would be great to integrate that. But yeah, I agree. I don't really want to just not utilize this in the effort that we've put in to make this.
So I'm also a little, I feel like we have this idea that we need to have approval from the city to develop a work plan. And
Right.
I don't think that's true. I think we can develop a work plan and go out and do stuff, and that's what we're doing. So it sounds like we're all comfortable with the work plan because we're already starting to do it. Maybe there's something else that Chris is pointing at that we need to think about doing, which is finalizing a sort of high level vision document and socialize that with the city to as an advocacy document, essentially, to try to align everybody around the support for public art. Am I saying words that resonate with you, Chris?
Here's just an observation. I don't think art and culture come up very often with the city. I think that's a reality. And evidenced by the investment that the city makes in arts and culture. And I'm just being super frank here. You know, you've got a 0.5%, you've got a little bit of top money that goes out to a whole lot of nonprofits in fairly small chunks. That's and we have a very, very, very diverse population. And if there was a way to facilitate a conversation about how arts and culture can be used to bring people together, to build community, and to celebrate our differences, then I think we could begin to kind of change the baseline so that people would be excited about art in parks. And it would be easier to find a resource to do something. I agree the city has budget issues. Like I consider myself highly informed. But I just think that through the neighborhood associations, I can see it in our Scan One grant for sure. Through we have a network of cultural nonprofits who are headquartered here. We've got a community of artists working in multiple disciplines. If we could begin to find ways for us to come together because we all believed in something, that we could change the status quo, that's where I'm really interested in working on. I completely get that you need a roadmap that will help you create the system so that you can get the work done in order to be effective, so that you can point to something in order to have those larger conversations. Or point to, you know, something aspirational that you would use to forge a partnership. You know, maybe there is some virtual tour of public art in and around the city of Salem that is done with state of Oregon, the city of Salem, the city of Kaiser, Willamette, whatever that might be. But I just think that given all of the big issues, you know, how do you keep the city running? Nobody wants to pay taxes. A lot of people like to complain. If we could be involved in a conversation that's about, how about this? Like, could we do this and pilot this in your neighborhood or in this park? You know, and keep all these naysayers, and there are hundreds of them here. You know, with a different conversation, quiet them. I think it would be better. I get the need for, you know, we need a database. We've got to maintain things. We've got to do this. Yeah.
But have you read through this though, Chris? I mean, we're talking.
Yes, I have. As I said, there's a lot of good stuff here. Yeah.
I guess my question is, a lot of what's in this working plan will help us achieve those goals and will help us lead to more community outreach and working with different organizations, and bringing these, you know, these different communities together. So yeah, I guess I'm confused a little bit.
Ryan has a comment.
Yeah, I have some thoughts, and so I'm just coming in brand new. I haven't read this all the way. I really like it though, but I'm hearing now what Chris said, and I've seen this a little bit. It sounds like to me that we're basically all have the same goal. This seems like more of an internal thing, like stuff for us to do. Chris, it seems like you're talking about more of like, we need to do some external work as well, which might go into this internal work plan of like, let's add some things about creating a more public facing vision and communication system, which is part of that in there, but maybe it's just an addition. Because I saw this always kind of as this internal for us to work on. And it just feels like you're talking about maybe something just a little bit different, but something we can incorporate into this and together. I don't know, that's just I'm coming in pretty brand new, so I don't have a lot of history with this or with Chris's vision, so that's just my take.
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps at all or makes it more.
I think it
confusing.
was, Brian, I think you're right. It was a way of, we would talk and everyone would have these great ideas. Oh, we should collaborate with Travel Salem for art tours. We should be in contact with the Capitol and the Oregon Arts Commission. We should collaborate with Hallie Ford. We should go out to neighborhood associations. We were talking and talking and talking. And those were all good ideas, and they were just kind of floating up there into the ether. And then Keith put them together into a document that we could say, okay, this was a great idea. Is there somebody here that can do that? Like with the neighborhood associations, we're gonna go to the meeting and we're gonna talk and then maybe put together a presentation to go around to each neighborhood association. I mean, it's actually kind of boots on the ground. What can we do? Because we all have that vision of what we want for, exactly what you're saying and what you're talking about for Salem. But this is more like, what can we actually get done here? And I think, you may have a point though. I mean, my feeling was with the council that they understand the importance of cultural arts. They're just not able to do anything financially right now. So if it doesn't cost any money, they might be, sure, go ahead, do that. And Councilor Nishioka, who brought up, this recent proposal to open the door for different types of public art in Salem. I think they understand that. I'm not sure how going forward the entire council would be convinced of that or aware of that, and we might keep that in mind. But maybe we were feeling a little comfortable that, oh, sure, they understand this. They're very supportive of the things that have been going on so far. So to your point, I think it might be good to kind of revisit that and make sure the council understands where we're coming from.
So it sounds like we need to, perhaps we need to use the magic of words. We're going to call this something different. We're going to call this the SPAC work plan. And these are the things we're currently engaged in and how we've organized what we're doing. In addition, Chris has said, I heard Chris say that she's very interested in taking on this task of developing what sounds to me more like a position statement, but we can call that a strategic positioning document or something, whatever the right words are, which would have a different use, which is not to drive our work, but to use as a communication document when engaging with partners to try to get support and alignment of a vision that is supportive of accessible public art, and that document doesn't really exist inside this document. So there are two separate things. I don't think
they naturally work together.
I agree. I think I like that strategy, Zach.
Yeah.
I don't think anything we've listed out in this work plan is counter to the positioning document, but I agree with you that that positioning document doesn't really exist. It exists in a PowerPoint draft that I was using to prepare for speaking with the city, and I pulled out a little bit of that in here, Chris, where you were like, we need a vision, and I sort of put some of it in here. It's not necessarily right. Do you, with that enthusiasm, Chris, do you want to take a shot at drafting that missing piece?
Sure, I can do that.
And then I guess I'm not quite clear.
I can do a draft and then I can bring it back. The other thing that I would suggest with the work plan is that there be some targets for, is this an ongoing that is tracked in terms of completion of things? So for example, I sat in on a meeting 2 months ago when the tasks were made for people to reach out to various contacts, like with the state, with the Capitol and so on. Has that work begun, or are you waiting to adopt this work plan in order for that work to begin?
The work has actually been done. Spencer has reached out to his state of Oregon contact. And I was hoping he would be able to report if he received anything back, but that one, let's see if we actually,
I mean, I don't need to know the details, but, it would be good to know, okay, this conversation was had, and, by the end of the year, we hope to do X, Y, and Z. Or, the Capitol is not gonna reopen for 2 years, City Hall in Salem is gonna be shut down for X. And so this is more like a 3 years out type of thing. I'm just,
so Spencer did reach out to Sarah Balinson with Oregon, state of Oregon. And so, yeah, to answer your question, the work has been done, but we didn't, we only started doing like assigning people. We haven't established any KPIs or timelines, but I think that's the next step once this is all good and done.
So I guess I agree. I think we need to, I want to talk, we can adopt, in my point of view, we could adopt this work plan as an internal document for ourselves. I think sharing it with Scott might be of interest to him, and I don't think it's necessarily detrimental to do that. But
Yeah.
I think we could also let him know that we're developing a different companion document. It might be worth waiting until that companion document's done before the sharing. I guess the sharing with Scott and the development of the work plan feel like independent things to me. Like they don't hinge on each other. So
Okay.
I don't mind adopting this as a internal working draft, which we then need to develop into deliverables and dates and all that kind of stuff. And then develop this other document that we want to share with the city or share with Scott in tandem. Do you feel, Keith, like there's an urgency to?
Who's Scott? Sorry.
Scott Archer is the deputy city manager
Okay.
in charge of community services or community facing services like libraries, 50 plus, parks and recreation, and SPAC.
Okay, cool. We gotta catch up.
I don't see, would there be any harm in sharing this as a working document with Scott, just to keep him, since he's our liaison to the city manager, and, just to keep him abreast that we are doing this. I don't know if he listens to the meetings or anything like that, but
My vision was to definitely share it with him as soon as it gets adopted by us.
Yeah.
But instead of saying a strategic plan now, what I'm hearing is this is our SPAC work plan.
yeah.
Let's
I move that we accept this as a work plan, and we can call it a living document if we want. If we want to change things, we certainly can. I mean, it doesn't have to be written in stone, but to adopt it as written now, and yeah.
I think I second your motion, Susan. Before I say anything else. So let me say it back to you. So the motion is we're adopting this as a work plan. And we are acknowledging that there's the need to develop a different strategic positioning document that Chris is going to do a first draft of. Yeah. Okay. All in favor of that approach?
Hi.
Yay!
Okay. Yeah, it's been a long time
I think
coming.
the thing I'm always trying to keep in my head is this is one of those trite phrases, but I'm gonna say it anyway, is don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. I think I'm eager for us to make progress and feel like we're making progress internally and have a sense of organization on what we're trying to do, even if we haven't gotten the format of it exactly right or this or that exactly right. And I hear you, Chris. If we were a company, if we were a corporation, I would absolutely manage everybody's time to their deliverables. With a volunteer organization like this, that's a harder ask. And so I've been a little reluctant to get real aggressive in terms of personnel management, because I just don't know that will work. that doesn't mean we shouldn't hold ourselves accountable for dates and deliverables, but there's a tension there that I at least feel a little bit. But
May
we've
I
done.
share a document, Trahal?
What's that?
May I share a document real quick?
Yep,
That I got
of course.
from the team? Let's see, what was it? OneDrive. Okay. This is, you guys kind of saw that, but it didn't work for everyone. There we go.
Right.
And so this is kind of where we talk about where we take our work plan, throw it into our directed tasks, and then we have a race sheet, responsible common consultant form, and then we can list our inputs, outputs, outcome efficiencies, and then a budgetary consideration when we put it all together, we can say, hey, Scott, this is our plan,
Yep.
these are the resources we need, et cetera, et cetera. So that was the kind of goal later on.
Yes.
And that's where
And I
we,
appreciate that you had put it in a more
Yeah,
standard
you
form.
pressed it.
I was like, oh, that looks scary to me. I'm not used to that kind of matrix. But now that we have it in the other form, I think we can kind of go back and put it back in there and have all those accountables and things like that.
Cool.
and that was always the next step once we sort of agreed on the narrative
Right.
level, we were going to drop it into that matrix format and
Right.
develop it out. We just haven't gotten there yet. So we need things on either end. We need a more detailed actual operational plan, and we need a higher level articulation of our position of why public art is important. All right, moving on to another easy and quick conversation.
God.
Let's review the public art matrix.
Wow.
Could someone tell me what this is all about? Because I couldn't tell what the purpose of this
Yeah, Keith,
was.
would you mind opening the one I sent you?
Okay.
I reorganized this a little bit, which might help. So this is an effort, Chris, to start to rationalize the many different ways that SPAC's being asked to engage with public art. And so I added Keith to the left. I created an sort of art type.
Yes.
So there's this, there's freestanding artwork. We're all familiar with that, right? That's the library collection, for example. But particularly, Chris, this conversation grew out of why are we treating, there's all this 2D surface public art, quote unquote, public art happening, and it's being treated in really different ways, which might be appropriate or might not. But we wanted to look at it maybe as a category of public art and start to try to rationalize and ask for legal to participate. And you can scroll down a little bit and you can see there's murals on private buildings. That's the currently existing mural program. There's been discussion with downtown development and other parties about putting murals on public buildings. There's starting to be an idea of putting murals on things that aren't buildings, but are still vertical surfaces that are, I think, privately owned. So how would that work? What would the rules be for that application? Don't know. How would it work for public buildings? Not sure. If we scroll down a little bit more, then we see that there's things that are starting to happen with fences. And this stuff's happening, it's just sort of happening, right? Like the city gave a grant to a neighborhood park to paint a fence. And that didn't run through SPAC. We became aware of it, but it raises this, here's another, surface. And it sort of conceptually, in my mind, it started to create this idea that there's a sort of inventory of available surfaces of different types that could be thought of that way. And if we didn't, and what are all the places we could put public art that a similar analysis could apply to? So if we're talking about a vertical flat surface that's going to have paint on it, what are the, apparently more than we thought, what are the 6 or 7 surfaces that the city is already one way or another engaged in painting or allowing to be painted? Should there be some common approach to those things? Do we really need to make them part of the city's permanent collection? Is there a better articulation of how that could work? Do they have to be around for 7 years? You know, everything in here is essentially temporary because it's all bracketed by 7 year at either 7 years or nothing. So this is a beginning of an exploration of like what, and if you scroll down more, there's yet another emerging category. There's now 3D surfaces, right? We're wrapping stuff. The city's wrapping utility boxes. There's a lot of utility boxes around. What else could we wrap them with? Does it have to be city collection reproductions? Could it be images by current working artists? Don't know. What are the issues that surround that? You can scroll down a little bit more. There's 3-dimensional signs someone added to this document. Like, great. You know, we had someone show up to give public comment last meeting or 2 meetings before, proposing drinking fountains, a drinking fountain art project of
And
cutting.
even Travel Salem a couple years ago wanted to put, you know, Salem big, you know, like the Toronto sign outside there, but there was no pathway for them to do it because
There's nothing
codified in code.
right. And then there's this other category, and I don't know if I gave it the right name, but I called it short-term art installations, which are, you know, 3D installations in parks, light exhibits, whatever. So this is an attempt to try to kind of pull together, here's all the stuff that's actually happening. Some of it's being treated this way, some of it's being treated that way, some of it's not being treated at all, and it's just being let happen. So can we know from an application standpoint that applying for murals, there's a bunch of barriers. Applying is hard. The application's too long, it's too legalistic. You have to sign an easement, you know, the 7 years, like the whole current structure is leading to not very many murals. So that was the problem we originally started with, was how can we start to break down the barriers so that we can get more public art actually made? And then that sort of, these different sort of articulations of public art start popping up. Oh, there's a fence over here that someone painted, and oh, there's and so that's where this came from. Does that make sense?
Can I add another significant point?
Yeah.
Councilor Nishioka brought it up in city council and directed staff to look at the use of temporary art, or how do we get temporary art in Salem? Because she wants Salem to apply for a Bloomberg Art Grant. So there's multiple different art grants. The really big ones are like in the millions. We applied for the asphalt art grant, but we didn't get that. But there's no pathway for any temporary art. And so that is kind of the impetus for putting this. And the goal was to send this to legal. And so I put as much relevant city code as I could find. And I spoke with Mark Weinstein about this, and he liked this as a cool tool because it shows the barriers that legal and code would need to go through to take care of each of these items. So that's kind of where this document came from.
Is this something we're taking action on? Is this a report, or are we taking action on doing something with this today?
It's on.
It was on the, was it an action on it?
It's an action item. We were going to submit it to legal for their feedback. I don't know that we're.
If we're not ready, that's okay. But Mark, I copied him on this document, so he has the current document. But I like this way how you have it organized by buckets of different types. Like the trolls, I am speaking with sign code, because it's not a mural, because it's not a street painting, and because it's not, you know, it's not exempt in code, a troll in a park would be considered a sign. Yet again, we would have to consult with building code to see if structurally it's feasible and allowable. So that's why there's all these codes in here.
Is
Yeah.
somebody bringing a troll to a park soon?
No,
It was just an idea.
yeah. It was an idea that Councilman Nishioka brought. She brought two specific ideas.
Oh, the troll, the big troll.
The big trolls.
I was thinking like a.
Oh, no, no,
No,
no.
the very,
big
very large
trolls.
scale trolls.
Yeah, so
Got it.
she specifically mentioned that one and then light shows. So,
Huh?
Yeah,
and a sign that has no lights that are not visible by the public is not considered a sign. So if you're ever for a park and have the big Viva Salem for an event, that's fine, but if you wanna keep it in there for multiple days or weeks, there's no structure, there's no pathway for that.
yeah.
And with light shows, if it's a lighted sign, then it'll all fall under sign code. But it's funny because Councilman Nishioka is also another, she's advocating for dark skies.
Right.
So, you know, there's a lot of interest going on, but my goal with this document is to outline all the different types of art that we've encountered as SPAC, where they fall, if they do, in relevant city code, potential conflicts, and who's the authorizing body. Currently, every piece of art in the city of Salem, public art, or any art, has SPAC as a sole arbiter. So currently where the street paintings are being approved by Public Works, that's legal is not very keen on that. So essentially anything on the left-hand side, all art types would have to run through SPAC as an authorizing body.
I think you did a great job on this, Keith, because it really picks apart a lot of the things that we were like, wait, what about this? Why is that,
Exactly.
you know, under parks, and why is that, and what, and are we allowed to paint on fences and alleys? Are we allowed, what is this, what is that a sign? Is it a, so it sort of lays everything out. It doesn't come to any conclusions. It
Right.
just sort of puts the information in a clear way so that we can see what's happening now and where we might be able to consolidate and move things around and change code. Then we could look at it and say, okay, well, we would like to see this changed. So what would that entail? It would entail changing this element of code. It would, you know, it would maybe we could put certain things under the same you know, labels with the, like the public art that we've been the street paintings that we've been talking about. Maybe the utility wraps would go under the same thing, and maybe even fence painting would go under that same code or whatever.
That was
So
my
and yeah, so it we could kind of start to make some sense of it. And I think this was also in response to the last meeting, Keith, where you read us from legal, you know, that it was kind of a very wordy thing that they put out, but the gist of it was, it seemed like they really felt that a lot of, or all of the you know, what did they say, that the sole authority on artistic merit or in public art collection and other things should come under SPAC. And there's a lot that doesn't now. And I think it opened the door for us to understand that, hey, legal might see this as okay, and that we can broaden the scope of what SPAC is here to do in Salem.
but also streamline the processes.
Mhm.
So that instead of having a different process for every surface type, which there starts to be an absurdity to it, right? You know, like a troll in a park is a building. It's like, what? No, it's not. No, it's not. Like, I understand it's currently under sign code, but like a street is transportation and a building is advertising. I mean, there starts to be like, I get it, but what opportunities, this would be my specific ask for legals, like what opportunities are there to streamline the application process? We know that art is already going on all of these surfaces because that's why the document exists, is this is what's actually happening. So and we're trying to get more public art out there, we're trying to enable the community in all of its forms to engage and participate in public art. So how do they do it? And how do we communicate? And it's real hard right now, as you can see in this document. Like, it's unclear. It's unclear to us. I think it's unclear to legal. I think it's maybe even unclear to the city because, you know, who approved the fence painting thing? You know, I mean, I don't know. I'm still a little unclear on that one. And so I mean, partly having leveraging SPAC's ability to be a common approver is great and could provide a point of stability, but equally as important in my mind is making this just easier so that, like, do we really intellectually need to treat all of these surfaces as different things and different pathways? And if so, we need to understand why and how to make the application process as easy as possible for people. That's my goal with it.
Is the lighting of the Marion Street Bridge type of activity in this document?
You can scroll down to the bottom. There's a light show.
Yeah, there's specific though, there's a Willamette Greenway rule that says lights cannot be pointed onto the river at all. So I don't know, I would have to do more research to see where exactly the bridge is on that, in this stuff.
Okay, I know the World Beat Festival will approach the city right away to see if the bridge can be lit for yellow and blue for the Ukrainian focus of the World Beat Festival coming up. And the city's been very amenable, like when the shootings occurred involving the South Salem High School students in Bush Park. They lit the bridge with red and blue, and I think this looks really comprehensive to me. And when I saw the light stuff, I thought, well, maybe, because most people don't even know, but you can request a lighting to commemorate something. Maybe that should get plugged in here somewhere, but I mean, it seems like this, I cannot think of anything else off the top of my head that would need to be added. It just seems very comprehensive.
I'm sure someone's gonna walk in and like the drinking fountain thing, none of us had ever thought about that, but
Yeah, I was surprised to read the minutes.
but it's a three-dimensional object sitting around in park and people graffiti them and damage them. So, maybe that's a perfect candidate for wrapping with something. I don't, if we can develop conceptual frameworks in partnership with legal about how to treat certain types of things, then maybe if other things come along that are like those types, it'll be easier to add them to our framework without having to, invent a bespoke pathway for each surface type or each three-dimensional wrapping opportunity or whatever. So yeah, I think it's probably things will come out of the woodwork that we'll want to add to this, but I'd still be very interested in legal's partnership on trying to create streamlined pathways.
Mm-hmm.
How many of these things do they feel like could be treated the same way? Is I guess what I'd really like to know.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
and also changing some of these no's to yeses.
well, then on our website, to your point, Chris, like I don't think people know they can apply to do any of this stuff, and so if the output of this was that we were able to publish here's the 15 ways that you can put public art up in the city of Salem. I mean, I was walking around Portland yesterday and there's weird murals everywhere.
Especially by your business.
Yeah, totally. On my business, there's like all kinds of weird things, and it's like clearly,
good weird though, good weird, not bad weird.
But I mean, clearly, clearly the barriers are lower. The barriers are lower, and the sky hasn't fallen.
Yeah.
And there's murals everywhere, and I was like, this is not an unsolvable problem if we're trying to proliferate public art. Which this is the bottom up version of I think what you were talking about earlier, Chris, which is like part of the way that people get fired up about it is that it's everywhere and they can see it and it's cool and they don't. And so at the same time that we're trying to convince everybody of the need for it, we can also I hope just start proliferating it and maybe that helps solve the problem. So I think both things need to happen, but anyway. So I would like to submit it to legal. Does someone want to make a motion? You comfortable with that?
I move that this matrix be forwarded to the city's legal team.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that was actually easier than thought. Good job.
Good.
Subcommittee reports. We're closing in on 5:20, so we're just giving everyone a time notice. We've already done the action items though, so I think we can cruise through subcommittee reports in the next 10 minutes.
Do
Hopefully.
you wanna, that chair's presentation, where do you wanna fit that in? Because we do need to, that's something that actually needs to get done and prepared, and I mean, we can meet offline about that, Zach and you and I and
Yeah.
Keith, is that something we should do?
Yeah, maybe, maybe how, Chris, how fast do you think you can put together a
I mean, Keith,
overview document?
do you think we really need that?
Well, I think
I
we
think
could
it's a
speak to
short presentation. I don't know, Keith, do you know how long we have?
10 minutes.
Yeah, it's 10
Actually, wait, let me
minutes,
see what she
so,
says.
I think I was imagining we would do a high level kind of like, you know, kind of like the vision words I stuck in that draft that we looked at earlier. Like, here's what SPAC does, here's our vision, what we're trying to accomplish, and then we could talk about specific elements of the work plan that apply, that are relevant to neighborhoods that they would care about. But yes, I think we should probably do it offline. It was just like if Chris has some, maybe we give Chris a week to.
I can get you some ideas, and actually Brian and I are, we're going to a neighborhood association annual meeting this evening. And I think for the neighborhood association audience, it's people, I think they want to know kind of the lay of the land. You've already talked about that. I think people would like to know recent accomplishments. The street murals have been very positive, you know, and I do think that the neighborhoods, most of them will be looking for resources, whether that's expertise, where to go, is there any money from the city or Travel Salem or somebody else? But I think it's about engagement, and
Yeah.
I don't think that they don't need the policy agenda. I think they wanted the how-to and hands-on. It's a
yeah,
it's a good group of people.
I
Yeah.
think also to promote the collection is really important. And I think that was one of the things that we thought we would do when we went to visit the neighborhood associations, give a short kind of overview, maybe some of the things that Krista's put together, about some key pieces in the collection. Not that we would do that for this meeting, but just to say, hey, this is one of the things that we're doing where, you know, we want people to know about the collection. The street paintings, Chris, I mean, I think it's great. They always talk about we talk about the street paintings at those meetings, but that's not really what SPAC does right now. I mean, SPAC does not have anything to do with this street paintings other than to say, hey, these are great. So I don't know whether we're talking about what SPAC does or what we want or what we think the city should be doing. So, you know, maybe we just kind of keep it to what SPAC does and touch on some of the other things. I mean, I'd love to talk to them about the street paintings, but I'm not sure that's, you know, but maybe we just kind of, I think big picture, and then, you know, how we'd like to come to the meeting, you know, if we're interested in coming to the neighborhood meetings and talking to them more about the art collection and what we're trying to accomplish.
One thing I really appreciate if you guys could bring up is if the neighborhood association has any ideas to do art, for instance, like the fence painting, to funnel it to SPAC, through SPAC, because even city staff didn't realize that was a no-no, and, you know, I think they just did it without wanting to know if there were any rules or regulations about it.
Yeah. That's
Do
my.
you think at this point we can actually do that, even though it's not in we haven't changed anything in terms of what our key, I mean, basically it says we're in charge of the public art collection. I mean, we want to change that, but can we actually tell people I mean, we have, you know, people in my neighborhood really want to do the fence painting and they want to send a letter and they're not sure who to send it to. I mean, should they be sending it to SPAC
Yeah.
at this point?
Yeah. Because if nothing else,
Okay.
it provides us a leverage point to send it to legal and say, look, here's another one.
Okay.
Here's another one. This is what's
So
happening.
that's good
And
to
legal,
know that.
I think
Yeah.
legal wants SPAC to be the arbiter of this stuff. So I don't think they're gonna, I don't think, you know, I actually wonder if that conversation we just had is part of what the neighborhood association might find interesting is like SPAC's working hard to try to rationalize the ways that communities can get involved in using
Right.
surfaces in their neighborhoods to have to put in low cost public art without a bunch of onerous conditions on it. So yes, you know, we all know the city's under budget constraints. There's not a lot of money available, but that doesn't mean you can't do stuff with your fences, utilities boxes, drinking fountains, and you know, and there's an initiative underway to rationalize all that stuff. And so
Right.
if you have energy for that, let us know. Like write us a request, you know.
Can I suggest that you can resolve that presentation? I have to leave at 5:30 to go to this other meeting this evening.
Yep.
Could we go to the subcommittee reports before I have to just excuse myself? Was there a post today, Wednesday?
What's that?
Was there a social media post on public art today?
There was not. It's gonna go out tomorrow.
Okay,
Yes.
I think they've been really good. That's why I'm asking.
Thank you. No, I apologize. The last 2 weeks for me, work-wise have been, we've had a lot going on at the winery. So, I have not been as on top of it. Summer's here, now everybody else is, and they want to go out and drink wine. So, it is on my to-do list. I'm going to get back into the swing of things, but yes, I apologize. I did miss last week. But we will be getting back into it starting tomorrow again. But we did have some great response and engagement with the with Mosaic Month, which I did in May. So in May, every week it was a mosaic themed artwork that was in the collection, and it allowed us to talk a little bit about conservation as well for the first time, which I hadn't really done. So now that if we bring the rooster back out and, you know, eventually as we get different artworks conserved, we can continue that conversation. And then the last one we talked about was the Eco Earth Globe, and there was a lot of questions, engagement, interaction, comments that came from that as well. So I think once that project gets underway, it'll be great to continue that conversation as well.
Great. Keith, do you have an update on the collection maintenance?
The Eco Earth Globe was, the graffiti was removed by our police graffiti abatement officer. But prior to that, when we thought we didn't have that resource, I actually partnered with Amanda Sitter, who is a parks volunteer coordinator, and we were gonna organize a parks cleanup with Eduardo's recommendation. And the abatement officer used that, you know, the chemical for graffiti and came right on.
Oh, great.
The black discs, like I said, it's over $5,000, so we're gonna have to get 2 additional estimates. And the art wraps for utility boxes, 2 more art boxes were wrapped. And they're along Front Street. So if you drive down, take a look to the right, you'll see them. And they're, it's the trip.
It's Betty LeDuc. That wrap looks fabulous if you haven't driven by.
And the other one was the toys.
The other one is McClarty. What's his first name, Zach? You know who I mean?
Jack. Yeah.
Jack McClarty.
They look cool.
I was on foot when I saw the Betty LeDuc. I happened to go around the block, then I saw the Jack McClarty, but I couldn't find a place to park. They look, I think that is just a good infusion of easily accessible, small scale.
Yep.
Gets people out on the streets. I'd love to know the other locations. It sounds like 12 have been picked.
Yes.
And then what's gonna go in? I love the Betty LeDuc one. I just,
They look great.
yeah, it looks great.
Short path is my metaphor for this. If we can just make a lot of little incremental gains,
Yep.
we might build up to something exciting.
Plus that part of downtown is gonna have 2,500 Iron Man and women.
Yeah.
People coming
Iron
through.
people.
It's summer, you know, it's the perfect time to just get those out.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I'm hoping that effort will feed its way out to the neighborhoods so that, you know, everything is not just downtown.
Well, that was part of our thought was if we could open up utility boxes to community art.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You
Like-
mentioned it's to schools.
Absolutely.
Have contests for it, you know?
It's inexpensive. I think community members or neighborhood associations could afford to fund a few of them in their neighbor, so it doesn't have to be the city funding it or city collection reproductions.
Yeah.
Which might be exciting for community members. They might like it,
Absolutely.
motivated by it. And then you could have a greater diversity of artwork and a greater diversity of locations. And it's temporary and it's low, we know the path now, or we almost know the path. We know the path if the city's doing it. We don't quite know the path if we want an individual to do it, but
Is one utility wrap about $500?
I don't know what the price point is.
I think it was like, I think they said 600, so I think in that range.
600, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's very
It's
doable,
doable.
Yeah.
very doable.
It'd be great if Travel Salem could put grants toward that too. That would be great.
Well, I mean, that would be an easy grant request.
Yeah,
You could put together a funding package for that.
yeah,
Easily. I am gonna have to excuse myself.
yeah. Okay. Speaking of that, I just wanted to tell you guys that Grant Neighborhood is doing another street painting project coming up July 4th. We have money that Travel Salem awarded grant retroactively after we did our street painting, and we had that, and also there's enhancement funds from city council that we need to use by June 30th. So we're going to Miller Paint tomorrow to pick out our paint, and the city will be paying for that.
Very nice.
We're doing the 2 roundabouts, which are on Hood Street, right near Grant School. We're doing just simple circular, very colorful, graduated tone circles around those roundabouts. And then we're doing it we have to cut off the street only in 2 sections at 2 different times. They didn't want to close off both streets because one is at Hood and Cottage, the other is at Hood and Winter, which is on the bike greenway, which was our original intent to kind of focus on that. So we're doing both 2 one in 2 days and another one in another 2 days on 4th and 5th, 6th and 7th, and then we're having a big blowout block party right at the park there, which is right at the school and the park on the 7th. And you're all invited to come. It's from 2 to 5 on the 7th, which is probably a really busy weekend for you, Krista. So
I'm ironically at a wedding in San Diego, but yes, it will be for that.
Okay, yeah. But thank you, Brian, for help on contacting some folks, and we've got our own ideas of what we're going to be doing, and it should be a fun party. And it's my birthday too, so
Okay.
Oh, wow.
birthday party. Anyway,
Thank you, Sue.
Just slip it out.
All right, thanks.
okay, thanks, Chris. Great to have you back.
Good to
Okay.
have to go to the same meeting.
Oh, okay.
And go get food.
I actually think we're probably done.
Yeah.
So
So,
shall we? Anyone else comments, or are we good to adjourn this one?
do you want to stay on, Zach and Keith, and just kind of set up a time for us to get together to go over this presentation thing?
Sure. I just want to let you
You can
know that,
adjourn.
okay, let's adjourn the meeting.
Yeah, let's adjourn the meeting, please.
Yeah.
Do I want to stay on? Sort of.
Take care, Krista. Have fun in San Diego.